This is Quar Church. Quar Church. In Culver City. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I count seats. Kind of OCD. Bye. Oh.
All right, testing 1, 2, 3. Testing the mic to see if the sound level is good. How's this?
Good. Sounds good. Yeah.
Sound good? Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
The Gospel of Luke and the Book of Acts is a 2-volume work in which Luke shows that Christianity was not an illegal or superstitious religion. And we could go on down the line. The Epistle of Paul to the Romans defends the Gospel against the claim that the Gospel is contrary to Scripture, particularly to the Old Testament. So Paul quotes numerous biblical passages from the Psalms and Isaiah and elsewhere to defend the gospel that he preaches against the claim that it was somehow contrary to the scriptures that Israel had. And we could go down the line here and see that these books have some apologetic aspect or purpose to them. Even the book of Revelation, his work in the world, we believe in a God of truth, a God of reason. So to be a disciple of Jesus Christ means to be his student. It means you're enrolled in his school and you're taking classes from him, and the textbook is the Bible. So now it's not just an intellectual exercise, of course. You're learning a whole way of life. But it's a way of life that is based on truth that God reveals to us in the textbook. Let's go to the next one here. Now, this might even be a little hard to read, and I apologize for that. I want to talk a little bit about what does a maturing Christian mind look like. And I'm using the word Christian here, you may be able to see it, to sort of organize the thoughts here. And these are all, every one of these points is taken out of Proverbs chapter 18. So you might want to bookmark Proverbs 18 and go back and read through the chapter and look up these references, especially in Proverbs 18 verses 10 to 17. You'll find all these points touched on in some way in that passage. So what does a mature Christian mind look like? Well, first of all, it is confident in God as something. We would seriously lose something because each author is giving us a focus, a perspective, a window into Jesus that is distinct, not contradictory, but distinct emphasis, distinct perspective that helps us get a more 3D view of Jesus than if we only had one narrative with all that material homogenized into one book. Last in the day, dating myself here, the only way you could take notes when studying the Bible was either have a notebook and write your notes in the notebook, or write the notes in the margins of the Bible itself. By the way, I hate writing in books. It's not just the Bible, I just don't like writing in books. So I never did that. Almost never did that. There were a couple times when I found a typo once. Posts in that book club 1 month that I turned into a book called Faith Thinkers, 30 Christian Apologists You Should Know. Now this is a discussion group. It's not we don't sell books. It's not one of those book clubs where you sign up and every 3 weeks you get a book in the mail whether you want it or not. It's not like that. It's just a place where people can come and discuss books of relevance to Christian apologetics. Last slide, I think we have one here. So if you want to learn more about me and about what I'm doing and occasionally see a blog post from me, you can visit my website, robertbowman.net. I'm sorry I didn't leave time for Q&A. We kind of got started a little late, and then I took the whole hour, so thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Good stuff, huh? Yeah. And my dad used to come in my room saying, "Oh, Brian, I see you're watching the Idiot Box again."
So I have a policy that I don't do any digital stuff on the weekend. But you know what? I've never been able to stick to that policy because on the weekend, I'm usually maybe hanging out with my mom and the nieces and nephews, and together when we're together, we think of some cool stuff. So we end up making some videos together, or maybe they help me do some video. But today I'm at the Core Church in Culver City. I think it's Culver City or Los Angeles, whatever they want to call it. And going to an Apologetics symposium. First hour was pretty decent, and just kind of how to be a Christian, I guess, pretty much in this culture, or how to engage people, how to live. And it's kind of like a lot that I already kind of knew, so it kind of confirmed everything that I kind of knew. I mean, but I'm still learning, duh.
This is not my first rodeo. By the way, one of my advisors at Claremont Tragic University, where I was working on my PhD, Anselm Min, was an avowed Marxist, was into liberation theology. Here's one of his books. So I've had this stuff crammed down my throat for over 2 decades. I didn't just hear about it this last year. My advisor, who I respectfully disagreed with, was really into it. I got this and I'll find it. If you're not a reader, by the way, there is a New York Times review of this book, 10, 12 pages, but it just condenses the whole thing. This book isn't that big. See, it's not that big. You could have insomnia. I'm going to pray for that for you. You're going to read this book, put it on your nightstand, and you're going to want to read it because it's good for you. I like that stuff. What I would submit to you on pages 105, 103, 105, about 112, he never answers their arguments. Now, God is a smart guy. I don't want to take anything from him. But I noticed, conspicuous by its absence, he mentions them, he mentions his book, but he never answers their critiques. And often it's just said, I will not dignify, one more time, I will not.
Break time. Break time again. 5 minutes. So, Professor Craig Hawkins just, I'm whispering. Don't talk loud, draw attention to myself. Who's that weirdo? What'd he do? What that weirdo guy doing? Nah, maybe I do like 30-minute segments. Yeah, 30 minutes or 30 seconds. Oh shoot, Del Taco's across the street. I go there all the time. Let's see what's across the street. Oh, it's not the full break yet. It's a 5-minute break. You see here. They say that it's Chick-fil-A's across the street. They say. Let's see. Is it? Ooh, look at the gas. $4.79. Dang. That's terrible. Terrible. Oh, I see it. It is in walking distance.
Here's a character saying, excuse me, I ordered a metaphor, but I got a simile instead. And the guy behind the counter says, sorry, we're busy as bees. That's a simile right there. So, let's go to the next one here. Let me give you an example of a figure of speech in the Bible. Jesus, in Matthew 12:40, stated that just as Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. And now there's one just a few chapters later, and several other places in Matthew, and of course this is in other books of the New Testament as well, it says that Jesus was killed on the 3rd day. Well now, in the word for us to defend the reliability of Scripture, not easier. Let me go to the next one here. C, contradictions cannot be alleged based on mere omissions. I got 2 C's out of this one also. You may have seen this meme where the referee says, "We have an attempted argument from silence. Player based their conclusion on a lack of evidence." Many people claim the Bible is contradictory, where there's no contradiction at all. There's merely a lack of reportage of a particular incident or a particular event that's found in a different account. So let's go to the next slide here. So here, let me give you some examples. The virgin birth of Christ is narrated at the beginning of the gospel.
Lunch break, lunch break. I wonder if I can use this for my script. But, oh man, I'm using the wrong phone. Gosh, darn it. Screwed it up.
I was gonna pay the cash, you want me to pay the car? Okay, well then that's what I'll do.
Everybody else closer here? Guess so. It's all dark.
Paul does not explicitly refer to the virgin birth of Christ. There may be an allusion to it in Galatians 4:4, but that's disputed. It's not found in any of the other writings of the New Testament. Is that a contradiction? No, it's an omission. Does the fact that Paul never explicitly refers to the virgin birth of Christ prove that it didn't happen? Of course not. It doesn't even prove that Paul didn't know about it. It just means that Paul never had an occasion in his epistles to talk about it. And his epistles were written to churches that had specific pastoral and theological problems he was addressing. If one of those had been relevant to the virgin birth of Christ, he might have brought it up. But unless that was the case, there would be no reason for him to do so. Matthew's infancy narrative, that is his account of the virgin birth and childhood of Jesus, does not mention the shepherds. Luke does. Luke's account doesn't mention the Magi that is found in Matthew. Is this a contradiction? It said on the inscription, what the inscription said, and the wording of the four accounts differ from one another. So this is Jesus, the King of the Jews. In Matthew, Mark says just the King of the Jews. Luke says this is the King of the Jews. And John says Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews. Now, if you worked really hard at all those words and mash them together and get one statement, is that the right thing to do? Probably not. Let's go to the next slide. It turns out that we only know about this from the Gospel of John. If John didn't happen to mention this, we would not have known this. Presumably somebody might have eventually figured it out or guessed, but we wouldn't know this. But according to John 19, verse 20, the inscription was actually written 3 times in 3 different languages. It was written in Aramaic, Greek, and Latin. I say, well, why would they do that? Well, it was written in Aramaic for the common Jewish people that only spoke Aramaic. It was written in Greek because that was kind of the lingua franca of the day. That was the language that was being used internationally. And a lot of people were bilingual and spoke both Aramaic and Greek. And it was written in Latin because Pontius Pilate was a Roman, and he worked for the Roman government, and their official written language was Latin. So it's written in all 3 languages. Now, it's possible that the wording differed among the 3 lines. That is, the way it was expressed might have been slightly different. They didn't really have those things. But so we're not going to be able to prove that Abraham was a real person in that sense of finding his camel driver's license, because A, they didn't have one, and B, they would have perished by it in the last 4,000 years. So we don't know for sure if this fact of the 3 different languages that were used in 3 different inscriptions resolves the apparent discrepancies in the